how are you?
Hi, good evening, everybody. Good evening, Amanda.
Good evening for you too. It's 8 p.m. there, right?
It's 8 p.m., yeah, 7 p.m. in Venezuela.
Yeah, 7 p.m. here. How was your Sunday? How is everything
Oh,
going?
it's been a crazy couple of days. I don't know if you saw, we were having a takeover in Miss Universe, so maybe you saw we went to Rio de Janeiro, had a couple of photo shoots, had a conference, and today I was in Belo Horizonte, which is another city. So in the past 4 days, it was three different cities, a couple of jobs. I
Wow.
have to tell you, I'm pretty excited to have an 8 hour sleep tonight.
Yeah, you totally deserve it. And I'm really thankful that you invitation, even if these days were full of activities for your schedule. So grateful from my heart, and you have been so kind and with the desire of making it possible. So I know we're going to enjoy
Of
this
course.
station.
Of course. I think it's so exciting that we're getting this opportunity to meet some of the sisters because
Exactly.
the universe of Misses is a sisterhood. So
Exactly.
I am really excited that we're getting this opportunity to talk, and I
Me too.
admire you so much. Everything that you're doing. You had the most fantastic reign. Congratulations on passing the crown as well. How did that feel?
Well, you know that it was weird. It was weird because I thought I was going to feel sad, but
Yeah.
it was the opposite feeling. I was feeling excited to pass by this legacy, you know. She was the queen number 70 because we were celebrating 70 years of history of the Miss Venezuela. So it was confusing because at the same time I was feeling so happy, but that was great because I was prepared to feel a little bit sad and nostalgic. But I really felt like she's a new path. At the same time, I'm starting mine now, Road to Miss Universe. And there was a big coincidence that precisely that day, Miss Universe launched all the pictures on their official app. So I thought I talked to my director, and when we realized everything that was happening, we were like, this is not coincidence. This is something with a cost, something with a meaning behind. And it was precisely that I was not ending a chapter. I was putting a period on it because I'm now starting to write the other part of this episode of my life.
For sure. You're now going into this next phase in this new chapter. And I'm so happy that you were able to feel excited. I don't know I mean, I'm a little bit far away from when I'm passing the crown. I'm closer to when I got it than to passing it.
How does it work in Brazil? When are you supposed to pass it by?
Well, it's been changing a little bit. So last year it was November, and our candidate only had a month to prepare for Miss Universe, which is a very short time.
Wow.
Yeah, she
Well, yeah,
was crowned in November and she flew to Israel in December.
it was Teresa, right?
Teresa Santos.
I remember I saw her being selected, and it was few weeks before going to Miss Universe. Well, that's great. So you have had a lot of time and much more than hair to prepare yourself. That's incredible.
Yes, I was crowned in July, at the end of July, so I've had August, September, October, and now
Yeah.
November, December. But I think the process in Venezuela is incredible that you get crowned a year before.
Yeah, that's so that let's say it's an advantage, but it's also so useful for us queens because I couldn't imagine how would it have been if I went to the Israel edition, for example, because in my case it was even my first time on pageantry. So I think I'm really blessed to have had this whole year of preparation. But before going
So
in,
tell me, no, I think you just started. Tell me a little bit about your pageant history.
let's start directly, and then we go with the. But I wanted to mention something because I wanted to thank you also for that. I have my tea prepared here.
Yes!
It's going to be on a
Oh,
special
that makes me
day.
so happy. Oh, cheers.
I had it ready here because Mia told me and invited me to grab the tea while we had the conversation. So if you guys want to join us and drink a tea and chat with us, it would be amazing. So my pageant history, well, is really short actually, because my first pageant contest was Miss Venezuela. That was my first national contest. Before that, I was a model, and I did one contest as a model when I was like 13, 14 years old, and then directly to Miss Venezuela. So I couldn't imagine how, like, what version of Amanda would have competed in the past edition if I had been sent just like Teresa was, you know, like 1 month before, because actually I was selected on October 28th, and the competition was on
Wow.
December 13th, if I'm not wrong. So,
Yeah.
like, theoretically, I could have gone, but I really think that it would have been the same, because now I have had the chance to get to know a lot much about pageantry, improve myself in many, many aspects, and discover, you know, my own self and what do I want to do with this opportunity. So same for you, that you have more than half a year to prepare.
No, I'm having, yeah, I'm having a little bit more than half
A
of,
little,
about half of a year, yeah.
exactly,
But
exactly.
can I ask you a question based on this? It was your first time, and I'm sure just like here in Brazil, girls in Venezuela, they try more than one time at the title. And it was your first try and your first pageant, and you win in a country that is so famous for pageantry.
Yeah.
Without giving any secrets away, because I know you can't, what do you think made you different and stand out? Like, what do you think was the it factor that made you win?
Well, you know that many people liked the fact that I didn't come from any other contest, because I was new in every area. So I was able to start building my own version of how to be a Miss Venezuela from zero, from scratch. And I think this is not common here in my country, because you're telling me, like, here we live pageantry like with passion, passionately, really. And many girls first go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pageants before arriving to Miss Venezuela. And someone told me that in the first, like the last interview selection we had to the final decision of who were going to be the delegates. And they told me, like, well, you went like directly to the World Cup, let's call it.
Yeah.
And I was like, definitely. But I was just realizing that in that precise moment. I didn't think about that before, but I always had in mind competing someday. I didn't know when, I didn't know how, and life just put it into my path when it had to be. And there's something particular that I always tell, and it's that I dreamed with Miss Universe like my whole life, because here in
Ah,
Venezuela, like, Miss Venezuela was like already there, always, during since I was a little girl. So my dream, more than only being Miss Venezuela, which of course was part of the goal, was arriving to Miss Universe. And it was great, you know, like achieving it, and then looking back and realizing that I had decreed it with my word and with my thoughts. So that's my story. It's not a long story, but it's a really,
it's,
really particular one, and
do you know,
I love
Amanda,
to tell it.
Amanda, that is something that we both share in common. I don't know if you know this, but it's also my first time competing in a pageant in Brazil. And I went straight to Miss Brazil as well. And many girls compete. I don't know if it's allowed in Venezuela as well, but in Brazil, you can compete more than one time in Miss Brazil. So you can
Oh,
return.
oh,
And so girls try at Miss Brazil more than one time. And at the top five, uh, four out of the girls that were on the top five with me, they had already been,
okay.
three of them in a top five before for Miss
Wow.
Brazil, or another pageant in the same level, like a Grand Slam. And the other one was in the top 10 of Miss Brazil. So they all had a history of Miss Brazil and a history with some success. And then there's this new girl, in the case me. And I think I don't know if that was for you as well, but I don't think it was expected that I would win because we had these girls with so much history, and then comes me along. But I think that is something that we bring to the competition. It's this freshness. This we don't come with a structure, with a past. We came with our personalities, with our objectives, with our history, and that is something really special for me. They're looking for real women. And maybe because we didn't have that past, we brought so much truthness to everything we did.
I like to, every time I talk to little girls who come to me and they say like, you know, like I want to be there. I want to start on this path. What should I do? And I always tell them from my experience, because let's leave clear that every experience is different, and it must be that way because that's the diversity that, you know, like compounds all the beauty of a beauty pageant. But I tell them like, I believe that you don't have to prepare only for a pageant. You need to prepare for life. And then pageantry will give you that exposure, that platform to let you show the world and the universe who you are and what you want to tell. So that's my first advice. That's what I always say because I feel it real. I didn't prepare myself for a pageant. I prepared myself to be a businesswoman, a professional, you know, someone who's leader of its own life. And that, if you ask me, like answering now to your question, I think that was what made me different from let's not say that I was the only one living it like that, but maybe to the eyes of the judges, that was interesting. You know, like
that was very clear to them that that was what you were there to offer.
Exactly. And even for myself, because I felt that the Miss Venezuela experience was giving me the chance to discover what was the purpose of that new chapter in my life. But I already had one as a designer in my case. I already had one as a woman. So now I found it in pageantry and I'm mixing them. I'm finding like the best balance between the two worlds and enhancing this new path. And how did you feel with those girls that were by your side with that amount of experience? Did you feel afraid? Because that's something we need to talk about, you know, like they always ask me like, did you feel you were going to win like on day one?
Yeah.
When you win, you're still like, is this real?
Is this real? That is the first feeling for sure. What was very special for me is, I don't know if you know this, but we have 27 states in Brazil. Okay. So there's always 27 candidates. Almost always. This year there was only 26 because one of the states didn't participate. But my state in specific, it's called Espírito Santo, which is Holy Spirit translated to English. And my state had never, ever won. So it's actually a state that has a history of just participating, but unfortunately, yeah. The furthest we had ever gone was third place, and that was the best in 68 years. So I think the first feeling that I felt was actually so much pride for my state, because they don't call your name, they call your state. Yeah. You know, so they said, and the new Miss Brazil is Espírito Santo. Like, I remember her saying my state like it was yesterday, like it was right now. It's something that's going to be forever marked in my brain. And I'm sure that when we hear the name of our country being called at Miss Universe during the phases, and hopefully for one of us as the final name, I think that calling of Venezuela, that calling of Brazil, it's actually so much more powerful than if our names were being called. because we really feel like we're carrying history, we're carrying culture, we're carrying all these people with us. And one of the jobs that I used to do, and I think you started it, you started saying what you did before, and I want to know what you used to do before. Actually, I want to know a little bit of your history. But something that I did before was I worked with culture. I wanted to, through culture, help break stereotypes and paradigms and prejudice that people have. You know, a lot of times when you see prejudice is usually because we don't know about the other person. Because when we do, we see that these differences are meaningless against all of the humanity and all of the aspects of humanity that connects us. So I used to work with audiovisual, always talking about culture.
Great.
And I wanted Brazil to know more of my state, which is very small and not very well known in Brazil. So you were asking me like how I felt is when I felt Espírito Santo being called out. And on the next day, when I saw all of the newspapers being like, Mia breaks the 68 years that Espírito Santo has never won. In Portuguese, we call jejum, which means a fast. So Mia breaks the 68 years of fast for Espírito Santo being the first one. And with every interview, I got to talk about my state. I felt that I was finally fulfilling my purpose even better as Miss Brazil than I was as a presenter and as a producer. So the biggest feeling was of success, not for the crown, but for the purpose and the legacy that I wanted to leave behind.
Great.
So it was very powerful. So tell me a little bit. So I told you what I used to do. I used to be a presenter and a producer. I have a production company in Espírito Santo called Mia Content House.
Great.
That was always focused in multicultural. What did you do before becoming Miss Venezuela?
Well, I'm a fashion designer and I studied in Rome. I graduated from the Istituto Europeo di Design in Rome. And before postulating myself on Miss Venezuela, I finished my career and I went to Chile to visit my mom and my sister. And this story is very fun, and that's why I always say that it had a purpose, like everything that happened, because I was not planning to stay in Chile. And when I was in Italy, I never thought about coming back to live in Venezuela because I always came for vacation. But I wanted to finish my studies there and prepare myself and come back like in 5, 6, or 7 years after doing my master's, specializations and stuff, like with my brand already built. So like God had different plans for me, and I went to Chile, visited my mom and my sister, and my dad got a job in Chile. This never happened before. Like we had 10 years without living in the same city because my parents are divorced. So after they separated themselves, my dad always lived in other cities. So for the first time, after more than 10 years, we were all together in the same city. Also, my little siblings came from Colombia, and we were all reunited there. And I just said, like, I cannot live. Like, there was this second wave of the pandemic. And
I was about to ask if it was during the pandemic.
Yeah, it was not the first time, like not 2020 at the beginning, but at the end of the year 2020.
Okay.
Like December 2020.
Like the Delta, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So I was doubting a lot if I had to come back. And I just said, like, you know how valuable is this time with my family? I cannot risk this to go back and not have anything sure about what's going to happen next. What I did have on my hands was a lot of time to spend with my family after a long period without living together. So I just stayed in Chile, and we really spent wonderful months together. And while I was in Chile, randomly one day I posted a story, like with a box of questions. I had like 1,000 followers. It was just for my family and friends. But someone randomly, it was not mine, asked me, like, what would you say if they invited you to participate at Miss Venezuela? And my mom was a queen when she was like 18 years old. So I said,
Really?
yeah, she was like Miss Merida, Señorita Merida from my city.
Ah,
No, well, the story is longer because she didn't come to Miss Venezuela because she married my dad. So there was a lot of story in my family about pageantry and
well,
how
if it was today, she would be able to compete married, right? If it was today.
exactly, and that's great, like story. But well, um, I just said, like, I know this is more important for my mom than for me. Like, I don't know what to answer right now, so I'm gonna let her answer for herself, not for me. And she answers like, yeah, it is my dream, I would love to. And someone really special that then was the one in charge of supporting me through this path, he answered that other story saying, like, I still have faith and hope that you will become my next Miss Venezuela. And I was like, okay, what should we do? Like, how do I do it? And 2 days after that, I was sending my pictures, my video, my biography, everything, and no one believed it. But well, making the story a little bit brief, that happened, and then 3 months later, I arrived to Venezuela, and I started working physically with Made in Petare, a brand which I was working with like 2 years before that, only online, like just online. And we work here with a community that is called Petare. That is one of the biggest slums in Latin America. I think it's the second one after some place in Brazil. But it's
Wait, it's the biggest what?
slum.
Oh, okay. Shantytown slums, yeah.
Exactly. So we work with the community here in Petare, making bags and accessories with the mothers of the kids that work in the nonprofit organization. So when I arrived here and I was able to do the same job that I was doing, but in person, like sharing day to day this experience with these people, I was like, this cannot be real. Like everything started, like the puzzle started to get together by itself. And my message through my participation in the Miss Venezuela was that I was being able, and I wanted to invite everyone to connect with their passions as I was doing it through fashion, but give it an impact, like to that
Of
labor.
course.
Like, why are you, question yourself, why are you doing it? Who are you impacting with the acts you take day to day? And it can be simple. It can be just about getting out of the building and saying hello to everyone and draw smiles on people's faces. Or if you're a doctor, if you're an engineer, if you're a fashion designer, what are you doing to improve that work and that labor that you already do? But how can it really, like get an impact on your surroundings? And
Of
that's
course.
always talked about during the Miss Venezuela, and what I now feel even stronger being Miss Venezuela, because if I have to rescue something, is that's what this platform gives you, the chance to get this voice even louder.
Of course. I 100% agree with you. How can we do what we love, combine our passions with our talents and with inside of our values
Exactly.
and have a fulfilling career, but with meaning.
With meaning.
With meaning. First, I feel like the more we talk, the more I realize we are so similar, Amanda,
True, true me.
because well, two things are very similar about our history. I graduated from New York University in New York City. I finished audiovisual journalism and social economics. And I started working with television production in New York. But after a while, with exactly what you were saying is I loved the arts and I loved communicating with people as you loved fashion design, which I think both of them have an artistic aspect to it. And I felt, how can I, through this that I love, not only make money out of it, but also positively impact people, because that's what I felt was missing to truly make me happy with my everyday job. So I quit New York and I moved to Brazil. And when I moved to Brazil, the pandemic hit, like almost like a couple months later. And I found myself in a very similar situation as you. So I moved to São Paulo at first,
Okay.
but then I went to stay with my family. And
Okay.
my brother also flew, he was living in São Paulo. He also flew to Vitória, which is the capital of Espírito Santo, to stay with my family. So for the first time in 6 years, 6 or 7 years, my
Wow.
entire family was living in the same city as well. And
That's
it was so special that not only were we living in the same city, but we were living under the same roof. And we were all together and having breakfast together at the table. On Sundays, we would watch a TV show together. And as I can see from you, it is also for me, family is a really,
yeah.
it's a big value of mine, and it's very special.
Uh,
So having that opportunity, just as you said, of being together with everybody, I didn't have the courage to leave. I was like, when are we gonna have a chance for the four of us to be living together again? This pandemic is, I hope, a once in a lifetime situation. I hope that in our lifetime we never see anything like this again. So I stayed and I ended up restructuring my career and my production company that was supposed to be in Sao Paulo, in Vitória, so I could work from there and still be with my family. And in a very similar situation as you, I work as a presenter. I hosted and I presented the Miss Espírito Santo. I didn't compete. I was the
what?
host. I was speaking, and I got to call out who was the winner for Miss Espírito Santo, which is so special.
Oh my God. Before
And
any idea that you were going to compete later on.
not at all. Like, I was a producer and a presenter. Like, pageantry was not in my life. I always watched and I always loved, but I didn't think it was for me. So I presented it, and in a very similar shape or form, my social media was very small. I had, I worked on TV, so I had a couple thousand, but nothing like today. And someone messaged me. I still remember to this day, Crown Brazilian sent me the biggest message. Alan Feitosa, which was somebody that was there, and Crown Brazilian sent me like the biggest messages. What are you doing presenting? You're supposed to be competing. You were gonna be our next Miss Brazil. And I think from them and other people talking to me, and my mom was a big supporter as well, gigantic supporter. Um, yeah, it was also social media, people on social media that convinced me to compete. So look at all the similarities between our
A,
lives.
a lot. I love that. And it's incredible that every one of us, each one of us has, their own stories to tell. But most of them are linked in the way that they put us in this position today to get like a stronger version of ourselves, start being even more confident, or what are we able to achieve. And from the whole story in both sides, there are two important things to recover. One, social media, as you say. How can
Yeah.
we use positively social media? And then the pandemic, what it taught us, like it made us value even more what we have today. How family is, the center of it all, and how our perspective of life changed completely. Like after the pandemic, I imagine you feel the same. You question yourself twice. Like, I have this now. Just as it happened to us, like I'm with my family now, so I cannot risk this because I know that we just went through a difficult moment. You cannot know what is going to happen tomorrow. If you have them now, hug them, Tell them you love them.
Tell
Shout
them
it.
you love.
Take advantage of those moments because they cannot, like, they can not repeat, you know, like, you need to be conscious of those things that you live. Really, that's incredible. So Mia, I would invite you to do a cultural dynamic that I usually do on Voices Across the Universe. It's about talking about our cultures and about 5 curious facts of Brazil in this case. But for this conversation, can you hear me?
Yeah, did it blacked out?
Okay.
Am I back? Is my image back?
Yeah, you're back. It was just like
Okay.
great. So this time I did it differently because I know Brazil is worldwide known for so many things. So my first homework was to look on Google, what is Brazil known for? And I found out many things, like it's known for the Amazon rainforest and the Amazon River. One of the new 7 wonders of the world, which is the Christ, the Redeemer. I don't know if I'm
Yes.
right. Caipirinha, we all know caipirinha in the world. Carnival, soccer, colorful cities, and gorgeous beaches. So that's what we all know about Brazil. So afterwards, I took the chance to look for 5 curious facts who no one knows, because the idea is also to get to know things that are really particular about your culture. So you'll tell me if this is true or not, and we can
Okay.
learn about it. I believe you know it because it's your country. It's just like if Venezuela will know it for arepas or for pageantry. But there are specific things here that are not that common. So I try to look for those not common things. They say that Brazil is home to the largest population of Japanese people outside Japan.
Yes, not only the largest population of Japanese, but they also say that it's the largest Lebanese population outside of Lebanon, and they say it's the largest German population outside of Germany. Brazil is as a country that is we call it a continental country. It's so large and it's so diverse, and because it was discovered a little bit later on, it's a very young country in comparison to the history that we have in Europe, the history that we have in the Middle East of over 5,000 years of, communities. Brazil was very recently discovered.
Okay.
And because of that, all of the world was already beginning to become globalized. Trade was very big, and the entire imperialism and the colonial times were beginning. So as people were expanding, Brazil was discovered. We had migration from, people immigrated from everywhere in the world. So Brazilians are known for not having a face. Like, we are known for being completely diverse. You can look Japanese and be Brazilian. You can be like Martina Brand. I'm trying to say her name in English. Martina Brand. I was like saying Martina Brand. I always Americanize the names of things when I'm speaking. Martina, eu sei que você tá aí. Martina is on this live. Martina, what did you think of your name in English? I'm so sorry for butchering it. So Martina is Brazilian, and she's blonde and blue eyes, and I'm a descendant of Italians and Germans. And you can see that you look at the last 10 Brazilian Mrs. Brazils, and they all are completely different from the other. And I think that is a very fun fact that you just mentioned about Brazil. And I think it's one of the things that makes us the most special.
Great. Yeah, you're multicultural, and that's incredible. Also here in Venezuela, but let's say we received a lot of Spanish people, Italian people, but we're not the largest population of them outside of their own country. So it's really interesting to notice that Brazil, it not only has received them, but it has also the largest population of their nationalities. That's incredible. Well, then on this, you don't need to be scared about the curiosities. The second one This is a particular one. I would like to know if it's true or not, but I found it really interesting. It says that Brazilian prisoners are allowed to reduce their sentence by 4 days for every book they read. That's, I mean, if that's true, it's incredible. We need to research if you don't know about it, but I found it
Mhm.
all. It was a good initiative. They are doing it.
So for every book that they read, they reduce the sentence for 4 days, by 4 days.
Exactly.
I didn't study law.
Okay.
So let's see if somebody here on this live did
That,
study law, if they're a lawyer or... Vamos lá, gente. Olha só. Amanda disse que tem uma lei no Brasil que a cada livro que alguém que está preso lê na prisão, a sentença é reduzida por 4 dias. Aqui, ó. Sim, é verdade. Redução de pena por lerem livros. Andrew tá falando aqui. So Andrew is saying that it's true. Do we have... A gente tem mais algum advogado aqui? Ou seja, porque cada livro que lê tem uma redução da pena. Estamos contigo. Ok. A gente teve uma pessoa aqui. We had one person say that it's true. Okay, Bia is saying that it's true.
great.
Okay. We had 2 people say.
Supporting it. Great. We need to do a bigger research, but I found it super interesting. And if it's not true, then it's something to get to do, not only in Brazil, also here in Venezuela, around the world, let's say. Then on the 3rd place, I found that Brazil was the first country to accept women in their armed forces. And you even have had a woman as a president of your country. So this reflects the power that women has in Brazil. And that's something to really, really appreciate from your culture.
It is. I am super proud, and I hope that in the next few years we have more women taking a leadership position, that more women have the opportunity to be president, but not just president, that they take their place in leadership positions in government, in leadership positions in the private sector. So it is something that I'm definitely proud, and I hope it happens ever more.
Exactly.
I hope we women take more of our place in society.
I'm sure you're going to be part of that history too.
Both of us, I hope.
And now the 4th one is that Brazil is one of the world's most biodiverse countries. So not only culturally diverse, but also biodiverse. It is estimated to have about 4 million plants and animal species. Fantastic.
It's true. It is true. Not only on Earth, but also underwater. Underwater, we have the 2nd largest marine biodiversity in the world. We are only 2nd to Australia, to the corals in Australia. I don't know if you've heard of that area. And this biodiversity is right out of the waters of Espírito Santo. So Espírito Santo, on top of Espírito Santo, there's Bahia. And the ocean right there where we share Espírito Santo and Bahia, it's the 2nd most, it has the 2nd most, well, how do I say this phrase in Portuguese? It has the 2nd largest marine biodiversity in the world. There we go. It is true. And it's something that we're really proud of. And it's actually one of my volunteer projects as well. I work with the Projeto Baleia Jubarte, which is the humpback whale project. And every single year, the humpback whale comes from Antarctica and it comes to this region of Brazil to reproduce. And they reproduce. So technically, all of the humpback whales in the world, or most of the humpback whales in the world, are Brazilian because they come to Brazilian waters in this specific region because it is so diverse and it has so much food and nutrition. They reproduce, and once the babies are born and well fed, they go back to Antarctica. So it's really special, and we're helping to take care of them, which is part of the tourism. You know, when we develop the ecotourism, we make sure that we've got the private sector and the public sector focused in protecting that environment. And once we have that and the money going in, we're able to reproduce. So this project was able to take the humpback whale, which was extinct, almost extinct 50 years ago. There were less than 200 humpback whales in the world. And now they estimate that there's over 20,000. So we're in a very secure place and we saved the whales.
That's incredible. Congrats, Mia. I love that. Love that. A lot to share about your country, really. Amazing. Well, to
I'm
close,
loving these facts that you researched. Thank you so much for this game. I'm loving it.
well, that's
Okay, what
hard.
more do we have?
We have a last and really interesting because it says that sex change surgeries are free under Brazil's public health system. And I found out another, let me see here. Yeah, it says like it was already legal, but now it's public and free because they support it if you have like a court letter that supports that decision. And that's amazing because you're also supporting the right for people to choose if they feel comfortable with another gender and they feel they were born with that necessity. So incredible. I didn't know it was free and public in Brazil. And then I read that the biggest place to do it, or the most common place to do it, is China, which is the one that supports these decisions the most.
Well, about China, I did live in China for a few years, but I don't know about the health system in China, but the health system in Brazil is an example throughout the world. It's even though we are a developing nation, when it comes to the health system, we had SUS. See, everybody's even writing right here, King SUS. We have a public health system that, although it is imperfect, as everything is, you know, it's not perfect, but it is offered to everybody. And it is, I think, an example for the world, even for developing nations. We had a public health system before the United States had the Affordable Care Act, that Obama in place during his presidency. So you look at the United States, that is a developed country. They didn't even have a public health system until President Obama became president in 2008, so very quite recently in our lifetime. And SUS has been here for many decades. Well, I want to say many decades, but I've been alive for 2 decades, so it's been all of my lifetime at least. And that was essential here in Brazil because during the pandemic, we already had a whole system to deliver the vaccines for the people throughout the country. So it definitely is something that I am very proud of, that our country is an example. And as you were saying about surgeries, Brazil, because of our diversity, something that I'm extremely proud of my country is that we are so open-minded and we are very inclusive. Of course, there are issues like everywhere in the world, but in general, we are an inclusive country. And I think it's also part of our culture to be extremely warm and kind-hearted and welcoming. And you see this during the World Cup. Everybody is wearing green and yellow. And I hope that Brazilians are also going to begin embracing ever more Miss Universe. But you did mention something in the beginning that I wanted to add.
Yeah.
On the first fact that you mentioned that everybody knows, you said that Brazil had one wonder of the world, which is Christ the Redeemer.
Exactly.
We have 2 wonders of the world.
Great.
The second one is called Foz do Iguaçu. So we have a man-made, which is Christ the Redeemer, because it was made by man. And we have one that it goes under the 7 natural wonders of the world. So Foz do Iguaçu is this gigantic waterfall that we share with Argentina and Paraguay, I believe. It's this intersection between the 3 countries. Okay. And it's beautiful. If you're ever in Brazil, I just want to extend this to you, Amanda. If you're ever in Brazil, you're welcome to stay with me. And I would love to show you these wonders of the world
Oh
here
my
in
God,
Brazil.
I will take your invitation. I will take it for real. And also we here in Venezuela, the Angel Falls, that is the largest in the world. And you are pretty much invited to come and visit it. It's in Canaima. It's located near our border with Brazil. So we share a lot of things in common, many, many other things, even in our countries.
Even in our countries, we share so much history, and our personal histories and our countries
And
share as well. And Amanda, I feel very happy and very lucky to have the opportunity to visit Venezuela with Miss Venezuela. I think that is very special,
I can
I
say
must say.
the same about Brazil. Not everyone has the chance to go and visit Brazil with Miss Brazil. Great, great, great. How are you
So,
feeling now? How are you feeling now looking forward to Miss Universe, Mia? I want to know. Everyone asks me, but I don't get the chance every day to ask Ed to a Miss Universe sister. I was with Gabby, Miss Day, and I was like, everyone is asking me, but I also want to know about you. You know, like how are you?
it's so true. Everyone asks me every day, and they always assume, are you super anxious? Are
Exactly.
you really anxious? That is, they don't even ask me how I'm feeling. They want me to confirm that I'm anxious. Is that how it happens with you too?
Same, same. Are you all? They say like it's. Are you already anxious? Like it's going to arrive.
Oh.
You be anxious. Did that point arrive already?
I have to say, I am not anxious. And I think I'm really excited. And I think my excitement is so big, and my gratitude is so strong because, as you were saying, do you ever stop to think that we get to go to the biggest pageant in the world? Like, let's not even think about winning yet. Like, the first step.
Yeah,
We have the opportunity to walk on stage as Miss Universe and represent our country. And it's not any pageant in the world. It's the biggest pageant. It's the Olympics of pageantry. Just I realized, of course I knew that, but I really was thinking about it the other day, and I was like, holy moly, that is amazing. And we worked really hard for it. I'm not saying it just happened.
exactly.
I think luck is a little bit of, opportunity meeting our preparation. And of course, there is how life goes. But and just when I stop to think about it, my heart fills with gratitude. And that is bigger than any anxiety.
Absolutely.
What about you?
I feel the same in terms of like not feeling anxious at all, and it's fun when people ask it because it's really common also here in Venezuela that they talk about the weight of the sash, like Venezuela, the pageantry history. And I always say, like, I don't know if it's because it has not arrived the time yet, but I don't feel that weight. I feel the support of the country, and I feel the excitement of imagining myself arriving to the competition. Also, because I think that this kind of chats, this kind of moments, it let you understand that we are all humans behind the screen, humans behind the crown and the sash, and we're all living it in a similar way, like preparing ourselves, enjoying this path road to Miss Universe, and of course, looking forward to arrive and live that week, those 10 days to the fullest. So I say, if you focus on the pressure, then you're going to feel pressure. If you focus on the joy during the experience, during that steps previous to arrive, or even during the competition, then you will remain with that feeling, with that excitement. And that's what I like to take. And I always think if it's going to arrive the point where I'll feel anxious, I'm not going to look for it. You know, like I'm not going to start saying like, should I feel anxious now? Should I feel nervous? Will arrive. And responsibility comes nerves. Like I always say too, we are humans. It's okay to feel nervous sometimes, but not to look for it. Like not to imagine or to need to feel that way. You know, if you're feeling calm and you're enjoying it, then just keep it up that way.
So, hace mucho tiempo que no hablo nada de español con nadie. Hace muchos, muchos años. Yo viví en Barcelona cuando tenía 14 años, pero yo cambié ahora para un poquito de español porque hay tantos mensajes
Me encanta.
de brasileños que están mandando, pidieron para que yo hable un poquito. Entonces, hace mucho tiempo que no hablo con nadie, tanto que yo estoy ahora haciendo unas clases con un profesor para intentarme recordar de todo que un día aprendí y hablaba.
No, pero
entonces, dígame de nuevo.
Lo hablas muy bien.
Gracias, Amanda. Entonces, puede ser que nosotros intentamos hablar un poquito ahora de español en los últimos 3 minutos para que los fans de Brasil y los fans de Venezuela se quedan felices, porque esto es muy importante. Ustedes nos hacen muy felices todos los días con la torcida. ¿Puede decir torcida en español también? Torcida, to cheer.
Ah, no, nos apoyan.
Nos apoyan.
Sí, nos hacen barra, nos apoyan.
Nos apoyan. En portugués también tenemos apoyar, pero cuando estás en un juego de fútbol, ¿cómo se llama todos que están mirando el juego, viendo el juego?
Bueno, te hacen barra. ¿A quién le vas a hacer barra? ¿A quién vas a apoyar?
¿Qué va a apoyar? Entonces, hacer barra.
Hacer barra.
Hacer barra. Me gusta aprender esas palabras.
Me encanta. Después me tienes que enseñar un poquito de portugués. Por ahí leí unos mensajes. Hacer porras. Aquí están diciendo. Torcida es hacer porras.
Hacer porras.
Cheerleaders. Like, hacen porras como cheerleaders. ¿Es that?
Hacen porras.
Perfecto. Después me tienes que enseñar un poquito de portugués. Yo al escucharlo lo entiendo. Me pasa como a mi papá, que él trabajó en Brasil y lo entiende y un poquito lo habla, pero me encantaría aprender, porque siento que además es muy similar al español. Entonces, qué maravilloso poder compartir otro idioma que además tiene tantas similitudes con nuestra lengua madre.
Claro, estamos tan próximos. Venezuela y Brasil. Tenemos tantas cosas culturales que son similares. Ajá. Entonces, no solo el idioma es muy parecido, pero yo creo que cuando venir a me visitar es cuando yo poder, nosotros vamos a hacer turismo en Río de Janeiro, conocer Cristo Redentor. Entonces, Christ the Redeemer en portugués es Cristo Redentor.
Igual
igual en español.
¿Ah?
Ok, vale. Me dice que quieres aprender un poquito de portugués. Lo que le gustaría saber hablar en portugués.
Portugués. Bueno, pudieses enseñarme una despedida en portugués. Y es chao Brasil, muy buenas noches y gracias por acompañarnos.
Ok. Muy, casi lo mismo. Casi lo mismo. Chao, Brasil. Wait, dígame de nuevo en español porque empecé a reír y me olvidé.
Chao. Pues muy buenas noches o que tengan muy buenas noches y muchas gracias por acompañarnos hoy.
Ok. Chao, Brasil.
Tchau.
Desejo vocês uma ótima noite.
Ok.
Desejo a vocês uma ótima noite.
Desejo você uma ótima noite
e muito obrigada
e muito obrigada
por nos acompanhar.
por nos acompanhar. Ok.
Perfecto.
Oh, you-
¿Quiere decir juntas?
exactly. Yes. Vamos a intentar.
Ok. Vamos a tentar decir juntas. Tchau, Brasil. Desejo a vocês uma ótima noite
Uma ótima noite.
e muito obrigada por nos acompanhar.
Obrigada por nos acompanhar.
Por
Por,
nos acompanhar.
por nos acompanhar. Ok. Woo! Learning about our cultures, rescuing the most fabulous things about pageantry and about this kind of moments. This is what everything is about, Mia. Thank you so much for joining this conversation, for inviting me to the Hora du Chat with Mia, and for taking the maximum out of this experience together. I cannot wait to meet you, please.
I can't wait. And we're going to have tea together in New Orleans.
Promise.
Cheers.
Cheers for that.
And I'm just reminding everybody, whoever was watching this live with us and having tea, make sure you take a picture, post on your stories, and tag us. I'm going to repost everything. Agora fala em português. Quem estava aqui nessa live assistindo, tomando um chá com a gente, tira uma foto e posta nos stories, porque eu vou estar repostando tudo.
Great. Let's take our picture, Mia.
Yes!
Great. So I will post it first.
Okay.
You guys have to post it so we can repost them. Thank you so much, Mia. This is so exciting.
Thank you, Amanda.
So kind and so beautiful, and we have so many things in common that I'm sure we're going to get like a beautiful friendship out of all this experience, and that's also what this is about.
Yes, sin duda. Ya te tengo como una amiga.
Absolutely.
And I can't wait to meet you in New Orleans. I'm going to arrive and just give you a big hug because I already feel like we're friends.
Please, please. Muito obrigada. Muito obrigada, Brasil and Mia.
Muchas gracias, Venezuela. Muchas gracias por también me dar la oportunidad de quedar con los latinos, porque muchas veces Brasil es olvidado como un país latino, pero yo siento en mi corazón que yo represento a los latinos también. Entonces, gracias, muchas gracias, Amanda, por la oportunidad de hablar y conocer un poco de los latinos esta noche.
Me encanta, me encanta. Gracias a ti. Te envío un beso inmenso para ti y para tu país hermoso. Éxitos en el Mundial. Good luck at the top, because it's
Good luck to us.
And Brazil's one of the most favorite countries and soccer teams to win. So I will be haciéndote porras. I will be cheering you up.
Haciendo, ¿cómo se dice? Haciendo las porras.
Haciendo porras.
Haciendo porras.
Haciendo porras.
Okay. Haciendo porras. Venezuela, is Venezuela in the World Cup?
No. We have never.
Okay, so
Up.
I am inviting you to be an honorary Brazilian during the World Cup. Una brasileña honoraria. Te invito.
Great. Thank you so much. I will be there cheering you guys up during the World Cup. Mwah.
Besos.